Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Marketing Perspective. Our focus today is about nonprofits and their marketing. And generally speaking, in my experience, nonprofits, the area is great at dealing with their cause and not really terrific at the business side of all the other items needed to run a successful business. Usually when a volunteer board is involved, sometimes vested interests aren't always for the cause or for the mission of what the nonprofit's doing. There's so many, I call dangling participles in a nonprofit, that it creates a lot of challenges. Some of those common challenges can be fundraising, HR issues, departmental and communication problems, and of course, marketing. A very common marketing mistake that I see over the years has been going to the well too many times. So what happens is you have people that are investing and donating and really leaning into the cause of that nonprofit, but that nonprofit keeps going to them again and again and asking for more and more and more money. The same thing can happen in churches as well. So the challenge there is eventually the well dries up, right? So wouldn't it be great if those nonprofits look at those donors as, great, you're already on board with us and we love you for that and thank you for being a part of us. A great way to continue to help us is to go and tell others, expand our reach and to utilize them as your biggest advocates because they're already on board with you. That also expands your donor base, and that's the 20% of dollars that comes in versus the 80% of dollars that comes in. And there's other more deeper ways to talk about fundraising, but that is one issue. Another common marketing challenge is getting the offering in front of the consumer. As a marketer, many times even the surrounding community isn't aware of the great work being done by their local nonprofits. That's a horrible thing that happens. We rep a New York nonprofit called Honor, and I'm proud of these guys because they deal a lot with homelessness and drug addiction and battering and teenage issues, and they deal with everything with honor. They show dignity to the people. Their process is terrific. They are the best kept secret because those kind of things are not really things that the government and local businesses want to see in the light because you kind of hide that stuff. Wouldn't it be great if we just dealt with it all together and equally? But I don't think we'll ever get there. So they're a company that's doing it great. But today I have a very special guest. I bring on a very shining example of a terrific nonprofit here in Nashville called Hope Clinic for Women. This is a business doing great things and connecting all the dots as opposed to what I was just talking about. And it is helmed by the CEO, Kailey Cornett. Kailey, thank you so much for joining us today on The Marketing Perspective.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be sharing and contributing to this amazing podcast.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a little fun. I was looking forward to this podcast for a while. We were trying to get on each other's calendar and I was sick and you were busy and who's spanning the world, life is happening, which is awesome. So I want to begin today knowing a little bit about you and your journey. I would like you to share your journey of how you became the CEO of Hope Clinic for Women.
Yes. So it starts a while ago. I grew up in a Pentecostal church. So for those of you in the audience who may not understand that culture, we're just going to jump right in. When I was 16 years old, God called me to serve women facing unplanned pregnancy. And as a 16-year-old, I was really naive and said, yeah, that sounds great. Not at all knowing what that included, what that meant. For me as a teenager, I was very focused on teens moms and really what shame and guilt would a woman feel or a teenager feel to have maybe a mistake be seen so broadly. There's a lot of things that we do that we regret that we can hide, and a pregnancy is not one of them. And so that was really what my heart for the issue was. So I started volunteering at a local pregnancy center in Phoenix, realized very quickly that my gifting is not to be a counselor. It's not what God has given me to do, but I love numbers and I love talking to people and I love leading. And so instead I said, I could run an organization. I could do that. So I studied nonprofit management in college at Pepperdine. And after I graduated, I knew I wanted to work in nonprofits, but I also was so passionate about nonprofits, that I very much along the same lines as you, James, I'm very critical of them. And one of my big critiques is that so many nonprofits are run by people who have so much heart for the ministry and no head for how to run a business.
Exactly.
And I looked at myself as a 22-year-old and said, I'm that person. Yes, I have a degree that says I can run a nonprofit, but I have no experience in how to run a business. So I actually went into the for-profit world first. I worked at a private equity firm as an operations consultant, helping essentially flip software companies to be more valuable. And I learned so much. It was 80-hour work weeks, traveling across the country, a wild experience, very, very grateful for it. And at one point realized, okay, this is great, but I am getting so burnt out because my heart is not in this. And met a guy who was moving to Nashville. So moved to Nashville and found Hope Clinic. And it really was this molding together of the passions that I've had, of the different pregnancy centers I'd worked with, and my skill set at the time. I joined the team, making no money as a development coordinator, but got to serve under the CEO who had been at the organization for 16 years at the time. And I told her in my first interview, my goal is to run an organization like this someday. And she said, great, my goal is to leave someday. And so that's how we started. And I got to serve under her for 3 years, mostly as development director. And then when she announced her retirement, I had the opportunity to throw my name in the hat. They did a full external process, which I really appreciated. I'm a 3 on the Enneagram, so I really wanted to earn it. And got the opportunity to step into the role of CEO in October of last year.
Wow. That's a great story. You have such a strong business background. So to see a person with a business head turn around and do something in an industry that is very emotional and passionate is interesting, to say the least. When I first met you and I heard about it, I was like, really? Because I know that world a little bit, having been on a board of one. And I was like, how does that make sense? And the more and more I got to know you and to hear you speak, it is really clear that your passion comes out and your love for the people that you're serving. You make it seamless. It's a really big challenge. So, you know what? Before I go into a much deeper conversation, which is where I was just headed, I'm going to catch myself. Give us your elevator pitch now for Hope Clinic for Women, because I want them to have. So now they understand you. Tell us about Hope Clinic so that we understand the parameters, and then they'll understand better what we're talking about.
Absolutely. So Hope Clinic is nearly 40 years old. So I sit on the shoulders and the blood, sweat, and tears of amazing leaders that came before me. But what we do is we exist to equip women and families that are facing an unplanned pregnancy. We offer them a safe place to land, to talk through all of their options. We are creating a pathway for them to choose life for that child and then to experience abundance after that decision. Outside of our pregnancy services, we provide preventative women's health care, education for middle school and high school students. And then after pregnancy, we provide professional counseling for all forms of pregnancy loss and postpartum depression. So we really want to come around before, during, and after pregnancy, which is such a critical season of someone's life, with support and help, but also empowerment so that they can experience abundance after they leave our care.
How large is your team? Because that's a lot of services.
There's a lot of services. We are poised to serve about 3,500 people. We're closing our books tomorrow for our fiscal year. We have a team of 20, half of those being part-time. Majority of our practitioners, like our nurse practitioners and our sonographers and nurses, are part-time.
Incredible. And would you say the lion's share of the people you serve are younger?
Majority of our clients are in that 21 to 27 range. So we are hitting people, I think, later than you would expect, but it's still, it's never a great time to find out that you're pregnant if you're not planning for it.
Right.
I will say about 80% of our clients are underinsured or uninsured and make under $30,000 a year. So the socioeconomic status plays a big role, but we do see people across the full spectrum of ethnic and socioeconomic status.
Interesting so because you're a business person, you knew why I was asking the question as a marketer, because we look for the psychographics and the behavior and the geographics and all that. And that's awesome. I think that's part of what's making you successful. Because understanding who you're speaking to, if y'all have listened to me before, is critical to the success of any campaign. So they definitely have a handle on that. So that's a checkbox for Hope Clinic for Women. So my next question, as a faith-based organization, there are already certain challenges that are out there. We all know the challenges in the world that arise. Now add to that that you're a pro-life organization. Those two together, it creates a lot of issues and a lot of complications and a lot of things to navigate through. And in my opinion, watching you do it from the outside looking in, you do it very successfully across the board. I hope at some point, if you're listening, go to the website Just Because, so that you understand what we're talking about today. Even the tagline, which I don't have in front of me, and I apologize. What's your tagline?
A safe place for tough choices.
Yes, I love that. You're not hitting people over the head. It is a very welcoming and open environment. I feel anyone can go through the door and be heard and feel accepted. And would you say that is fairly accurate?
Yeah, I am constantly amazed. We do a satisfaction survey after appointments, and our internal words to describe ourselves, like welcoming and non-judgmental and safe, like other than safe, they're not anywhere in our materials. And those are the words that people mimic back to us in the comment section. And I read those and I go, okay, we're doing something right.
Right. Doing a lot right. What I want to understand is how you're doing it, because creating that kind of culture in a secular business, in a profit business, a for-profit business, is a challenge. You're doing it with all the complications. So how are you doing it?
Absolutely. Hope Clinic has the benefit of our founders were really intentional in how they started the organization. This is the third pregnancy center that I've worked with in some capacity, and we got it right from the beginning. Our three kind of foundational tenets are that we're faith-based but ecumenical. So we kind of leave it to the lordship of Christ, and we don't try to get muddy in denominational lines. We have all of our staff have bought into the belief that the only way to really experience abundant life is through Jesus. And so we're bought into that. The second is that we try to stay outside the politics of this issue. We're just not called to it. We find that the women that we serve aren't thinking about law and legislation, especially in a year like this year. I am consistently amazed the women who walk through our doors and don't even know that abortion is illegal in Tennessee. And so we're educating them, but she is so in her own world and we want to be right there with her. So you won't see us as an organization leaning into the politics. And then the last is that we want to honor the life of the mother and the father, if he's there, and the baby equally. And this really is why we have the services that we do. We want her to know that she's our priority. And I think that we're able to have the stance we do about being for life and believing that every life is worthy of dignity and respect, as long as we're showing her that same dignity and respect. She can begin to love and value something she can't see, touch, or feel if she feels loved and valued. That's kind of how we're able to thread that needle. Doesn't mean that everyone loves us. We upset a lot of people on both sides, but we want to make sure the person we're not upsetting is her, the person walking through our doors.
Sure. Well, she's technically the patient and the priority, and so is that child.
Yeah.
You said something I want to clarify just for our listeners, that abortion is illegal now in the state of Tennessee. That is as of this year, correct? When everything changed. Just want to make sure that everybody understands that that's a newer law. It came in. Lots of people are excited about it. You can go argue if you like by yourselves. Don't bring it. So where I'm talking about, as you understand, we're talking about internal culture. You said a little bit of how it developed, and I can read between some of the lines. I don't mind if we talk about, I know you're onboarding a new system called EOS. If you want to talk about that for a couple of minutes, because our listeners have heard of EOS in a previous episode. So I don't mind talking about it for a couple of minutes, because I think that'll be part of what is enriching what you're about to do.
Absolutely. We have, just to be really honest, we've always had a staff retention issue. And I think that's true across all nonprofits. But all of the business nerd in me and all of the books I've read, the Patrick Lencioni and all these books I've read they speak to a healthy organization. So it's really important to me that we got our internal values right. Like I was mentioning before, our external values our branding there is really working. But there was a disconnect I felt between the staff and how we treated each other versus how we treat our clients. And so we are using a tool called EOS. And one of the things that's been most helpful for us is really smoking out some of those disconnects. If we want to be a safe place for our clients, how do we be a safe place for each other? And creating safety within a business environment. We want to promote boundaries. And that's really hard to do when you're a nonprofit. But we've been using EOS to really define our internal values of how we play the game, how we care for each other. And they will align with our external branding values, but I think they have to be more precise. So we're in the process of defining those right now, so then we can roll them out across the organization and really looking at what team members do we love, are successful, do we want to replicate, and what characteristics of those people speak to who Hope Clinic is. When people say, I love Hope Clinic, what are those things?
And what are the shining things, other than what we've said openly? What are the other things that you're hearing that this is what people love about Hope Clinic?
Our people are so client focused, like her focused. I think that one of the challenges with a nonprofit is that you have these two kind of business units working. You have people fundraising and running the business and people serving the clients. And we're kind of at an uphill battle. Our building is literally broken into two sections. Our upstairs staff is administrative and the bottom two floors are client focused. And so we can really get siloed easily. But if all of us know that we come into work knowing we're here to create abundant life opportunities, whether that's someone doing their expense reports or someone calling a donor, or of course, someone having that conversation with a woman making that decision, that is one of the core values that we want to make sure that everyone's on board with, that we know why we're here. I think about there's all these big Fortune 500 companies, like Coca-Cola was like, why are you here? And it was like, to put a Coke in the hand of every person in the United States. Like that was one of the goals that Coke had. And you ask the janitor and he says, yep, that's what I'm doing. And I just think that's such a beautiful mantra that you can even try to do with 20 people. Hopefully it should be easier for 20 people.
Kailey, you're making my job very easy today. Using marketing ideas, talking about different stories. It's great. I can just sit back and ask you a question and watch you go. It's becoming very apparent to me inside the walls why there's such marketing success. Like I've looked at it because I know when I first met you, I was like, well, gosh, I'll donate my effort because I really believe in the cause and we'll come alongside you. You don't need us to come alongside you. You're doing great. And if you ever do need anything, please feel free to reach out to us. I'm happy to help.
I'm sure there's definitely things we'll need.
Genuinely happy to help. I'm just saying you guys are doing a terrific job. Okay. So why am I hanging on internal culture so much? If you're listening today, if you've heard in the past, you understand that it starts with an internal culture. Any true brand, if it's going to grow up someday, the internal culture has to match what you're saying outside the walls. It has to match your brand proposition, your brand statement, all those things that we talk about, and the pretty pictures of your logo. There all has to be consistency. And if it's not, somewhere along the way, it's failing. So, I use this company as an example, and I genuinely do want you to kick its tires and take a look at the website. So look at what they're doing well, and if you have constructive critique, go ahead. And if you're a marketing person, don't be that person, but you can see as a business person from the outside, you can see some of the successes. And if you have a passion for this cause, and if you're in the area of Nashville and you're not a part of them, I would highly recommend you come alongside and help any way you think you can. Because nonprofits always need something. There's always a way, and money doesn't hurt. Just saying. So, tell me, what else do you see that the clinic right now is doing successfully from a marketing perspective?
We just did a relaunch of our social media. And I know that's just one component of marketing, but we've been working with an agency for a while that kept telling us, like, you need a woman to be able to go to her social media page and see the same thing she sees on her website and see the same thing she sees in her words. And she has recommendations of no babies, no bumps, no Bible verses. That was her thing. And we're still balancing the Bible verse thing. But for a woman who is prospectively looking, she's not going to engage with our social media, but she's going to check to see if we can be trusted. And so we want to make sure that we are trying to be consistent and ethical in how we market to her. If we want her to feel safe, we never want her to feel like there's a bait and switch coming through our doors. We want her to know that you're not going to get an abortion walking through our doors. What you will receive is a free pregnancy test, an ultrasound, and a conversation with a real person about what your options are. The more that we can replicate that message in all the ways that she's seeing us, the more likely she is to trust us, to come inside our doors, and to consider an opportunity for life. So that's something that we're trying now and really trying to constantly hone in on. And who is that person? What language does she speak? What inspires her? What speaks to her, so that she knows that we're for her?
I agree with everything you said. There's one thing. When they're shying, now not to step on anybody's parade, but when they're shying away from scripture, I caution that, because now I don't think you should have memes with giant quotes, and I don't think that's the tactic, but I think it's okay. Like if you're just making a statement in social, if you're talking about a topic, that you use a scriptural reference, that it's just the address at the bottom, could be really small, that it's there and has a presence, so that people understand we are biblically based. This choice is made because of this. So that might be a good balance, to not be overpowering and also not feel like a little bait and switch when they go, "Oh, you're faith based."
Yeah. Oh, I'm totally with you, James. We are the ones who are keeping it in. Because we're like, no, I think this is who we're supposed to be. Like, I think there's a way to include our faith that shows this is why we care about you. It's not just because we're nice people. It's because that someone loved us first.
Right. I have an example. We had a client recently go through a very difficult situation, unethical employee, lots of money. So now they have a major cash flow issue. And I love this company. They're a terrific company. So we're coming alongside them. We cut numbers. We're basically a nonprofit for them right now, and I updated their proposal and their math and their budget and their marketing plan. And at the bottom of the page, I said Galatians 7. And that's all I said. And they're people of faith. And I said I didn't make a big deal about it. But when they asked me, why would you do that? I was like, that's why. And it was kind of cool. We're all warm and fuzzy together now. So I think it's important. And I don't hide my faith at all. And I'm in a for-profit business, and I'm in marketing. So imagine how that, I don't know what's worse, yours or mine, who's got it more difficult? How do I do business black and white in a very unethical industry? So anyway, so I appreciate you sharing what you did. That's really important for people to hear. Tell me, what are your biggest challenges today? What are you coming across that is just, oh my gosh, we don't have a solution for that hurdle yet?
Yeah, I think from even a marketing perspective, this was truly the first thing that came to my mind. Was there is so much, I hesitate to say misinformation, because sometimes it's true about organizations like pregnancy centers and who we are, what we do. Our Yelp page currently has us listed as a business type that we're not, and a disclaimer that is untrue that we can't remove. And I never like to play the victim card, because I think that there is all authority in heaven and on earth for God to do what he wants to do. And so I don't want us to ever feel like we're disheartened because of it, but it does cause us to have to think really creatively about how we can work around the hurdles of people who don't know us and say things about us that are probably not true. I feel like we had a attack this summer that was it was disheartening. At the end of the day, it was just a broken window, and we moved forward and we're able to serve clients by noon. But it's things like that that can be really hard to know. Oh man, these people just don't know us. They don't know that we're providing great care for women that wouldn't get it otherwise.
Right. There's also other ramifications there, such as the fact that the cost of an abortion is a very high ticket item, which is why clinics perform. And it's something that nobody talks about. And I hate to say that it's about money, because I do believe people should have their own choice. Yeah. Our heads just look at it that we want them to make a positive choice, a choice of life. But I do understand that, like, if you didn't ask me the question, most people do if they find out I'm pro-life. Politically, I believe that you have the right to choose whatever you want for your body, and the government shouldn't say anything. And if the government is listening, I'm sorry, but I don't think it's your choice. I think it's a woman's choice. I just hope that the woman makes a choice that we all would agree with. So off the soapbox, sorry.
Yeah.
But it's segueing us to a tough, do you want to add to that? Go ahead.
I was just going to say that in my experience, I'm consistently amazed that women that do want to and feel they can't make that choice for life. Mm-hmm. I serve clients on Tuesday afternoons just so I can get a taste of what our services actually look like, and make sure that things are lining up with what I'm sharing outside of our doors. And 100% of the women I've talked to, when I ask them, what were your beliefs, or what are your beliefs about abortion before this moment, say, well, I know it's wrong, but. And so these are women who, in their heart of hearts, really want to choose life. And there are real circumstances that are preventing them from doing so. And that's what we exist to do, is to help them get to that spot. So I absolutely hear you.
Earlier, I brought up the going to the same well issue that happens in a lot of nonprofits. What do you feel about that? Do you have a way around it? Or are you a victim of it as well?
I love that question. And when I heard you mention that, I was just thinking about, I was writing a grant today that asks a very similar question. And we are so blessed to have a strong base of support, but have a really, some people would call it complex, I would say thorough fundraising model, where we have, for example, 170 monthly givers, people that give anywhere from $15 to $1,000 a month. And that's coming in every month off their credit card. We do 4 fundraising events. And those events aren't just to raise money, they're for our champions, our donors, to invite their friends. Right. So that the pool expands. This year we brought in, I can't remember the numbers off my head. I want to say something like 500 new donors this year. And granted, This year was a little out of the norm with everything going on in DC, but that type of growth won't be sustained at that level, but you want to have that level of growth of people constantly sharing with their friends. And we want to be stewarding the donors that we're given. We use a core set of principles from Mission Increase around donor stewardship. And one of my favorites is that we want to view our donors and our champions as part of who we're called to serve. Because they're interacting with our ministry, they're growing closer to God, because of the letters that they read, the emails they read, the volunteer opportunities they go to. They're learning more about Him, and that helps them want to share about who we are, not just the work we do.
Right. If you are listening, and if you are a nonprofit and you're taking notes today, one of the things that Kailey just said that I want you to focus on. So there's that monthly donor that is money coming in all year long, whether it's $10 or $1,000. There's also that one-time donor that may write a $50,000 check, and they're passionate and they have the funding and they're philanthropists. And once in a while, you'll get those. There's the communication model in a nonprofit can't be the same how you speak to both of them. And there's a different marketing tactic for both. So just be aware of that if you just put a hook out, it won't bring in both. You have to be very purposeful. And that basic donor base, that the $10 ones, is your lifeblood. It's the money coming in every month, and you can't dismiss them. You got to treat them like that one-time $50,000 check. So it's a difficult balance. I know just about every nonprofit I know anywhere does an annual gala or something, or an annual ask. There's that letter that goes out. Usually the letter goes out to the existing database. And that's where I think that, how do you get that letter in the hands of other people other than your existing database? And maybe the letter can, so secret sauce here a little bit. There are times that we, in the annual letter, we talk about a story. This is what the cause is, and here's a success story, and here's, or several, or whatever we can do. And then we add into it that we're not going to ask you for money. We're going to ask you to share this with others. And here's what we're looking for. We have a goal to increase our donors by this many people, or this amount of money, or we're doing something, we're building a building, whatever it winds up being, but make it specific and purposeful. And you'll see your donor base rise up to the challenge, and they'll probably give money anyway. Find another tactic. Stop doing the same thing again and again. My recommendation, not as a nonprofit professional, as a marketing professional, for almost as many years as Hope Clinic is in business.
I love that.
So speaking of that, you're about to celebrate 40 years this coming year.
Yes,
right?
March.
What are you guys planning on doing for it?
So our gala, it's kind of like the anniversary event. We do our big banquet, and the board has tentatively allowed me to try to, or to plan for a 400-person event. We typically had about 250 people, but I really felt like we can do 40 tables for 40 years. And it can be part of that. I think every nonprofit is a little guilty of feeling like the best kept secret. And that I was honestly being the worst thing to say to somebody who was in any sort of business that people need to know about to continue to exist. So having 40 tables and having a person who maybe is just given once and challenging them, could you invite 8 people to come who've never heard about Hope Clinic to come to this event and celebrate 40 years of legacy? We will be working on gathering stories from all those 40 years of people whose kids have kids because of work that was done decades ago. Wow. And really celebrating that legacy.
Do you partner and come alongside churches as well? So I would allow the churches to get that message out.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have over 40 partnering churches, and I am so grateful. Huge shout out to churches right now. I was so nervous that when laws would change, that people who were staunchly pro-life would say, "Yay, we won," and stop the effort. And I have seen the opposite happen, of people really stepping up to say, how can we actually support families that are facing this now? And the church has been a huge part of that in the last couple months. And we're just trying to gather all that support and give them a path to run down, because they're ready to run.
Right. When you said that, it made me start thinking about just knowing the stories that I know of. So here, a person can't get an abortion in this state, but if a woman feels cornered and doesn't believe they have another choice, they will find a way no matter what. Absolutely. Whether they have to go out of state, they can go across the country, whatever needs to happen. And as long as you're able to, if they had the opportunity to know that there are options, and let them weigh out the options before they make that choice. To your point, what you said before is more times than not, they won't go that route. So I think, I don't know if you brag about your successes, like the amount of lives saved or things like that. So, do you post that? I don't have it off the top of my head, like over the course of time, the amount of lives that we've saved, because we do want to focus on her. But I do have statistics on the women that choose life. And this last year, of the people that received an ultrasound, so received follow-up care, 85% of women chose life after receiving services from us, which is really incredible considering what's going on in the world. Right. I was anticipating that percentage to go down in the midst of everything. And this was pre-Dobbs decision. And that number stayed consistent, knowing that these people are facing real life situations, and just the presence of someone saying, "Hey, I'm going to be here for you. You're not going to be alone,"
is life-changing for a lot of these women.
I know that in the area that I live in Mount Juliet, which is probably about a half hour away, 40 minutes, depends on Route 40, where you are. Could be an hour, who knows? Depends on the day. This area isn't as aware of your facility because I talk about you, I brag about you. And there was a facility close by, and I think it closed recently. I'm fairly sure, and for bad reasons, and it wasn't operating the way everybody wanted it to. I would love to make aware outside of your backyard because I do believe people would come from a further geographic. But let me ask you, what do you find your geographic to be? How far of a reach do you have right now?
Majority of our clients are Davidson, Williamson County, but because we are the largest pregnancy center in the state, there are 25 pregnancy centers. We have the broadest range of medical support, and I would say probably marketing reach. We get people that travel from as far as Knoxville. We had a couple that drove down from Clarksville the other day. And when things like that happen, of course, we're going to love them. We're going to serve them. And if they want to continue getting parenting education, we want them to get connected with the pregnancy center near them to do that ongoing support because they're going to need people in their life, in their community, loving on them. We can be with them for that initial moment. So I'm constantly surprised at people we see from all over the state. And then for our counseling services, our support groups, we have people from all over the world that join our support groups online.
Wow. So they're on Zoom with people. Mm-hmm. That's really cool. I did not know that. Okay. So I think I have a grasp, and I think our listeners have a grasp. Are there any other marketing woes that you come across in your nonprofit, or even your perspective of nonprofits in general, that you would like to share?
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is the first nitpicky thing that I thought about when people say something really simple, like to make a difference or change lives, something really vague that always gets in. Like, no, tell them what they're actually going to do. Tell them how much it's going to cost. It's going to cost you $500 to cover education, mentoring, counseling, and material support for one woman for an entire year. Are you in? I feel like the more specific we can be, there's so many great nonprofits. Like, I want nonprofits to know what makes them special and to share about that, because that's what's going to cause me to give them. That's also what's going to cause me to want to partner with them, because then I know, okay, I have the perfect client for you so that you can meet her and serve her needs.
Okay. So you brought it up. So we've worked with a lot of nonprofits over the years, and that is our biggest pet peeve, what you just said. And a volunteer board, and so-and-so on the board, this is their input, and this is what we've always said this, and it's the most generic cookie cutter thing, and we're fighting it. So just give us a shot. Let us try it. No, and there's a board decision, decision by committee. And the best laid strategy is just go by the wayside with the wrong messaging. And it doesn't even fit what the brand is trying to do. It's total disconnect. So I'm with you. And I'm so glad that you don't do that. And it's another reason that I think your secret sauce is making you so successful. Well, thank you for sharing. I appreciate you being open about it. One last question, and it's probably a tough one. If there's someone out there struggling, if they're in a difficult situation, what do you want them to know?
Specifically for an unplanned pregnancy or any sort of crisis?
Let's go there. Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to say if it is a woman who missed her period or a boyfriend who just got the text, because we get those calls too, to know that you're not alone as much as you feel like you are. It is the most isolating thing in the world to be sitting with that pregnancy test at home. And there are people who want to listen to you and don't want to try to sway you in one direction. We're just trying to create a pathway for you, and that you don't have to make a decision today. That is the biggest advice I can give to someone is you're going to feel like you have to rush. You're going to feel like you have no time. You have time. You have time to critically think about all your decisions, because every single decision in front of you is going to change your life forever. There's nothing that's going to make it go away. And so just like you would look at any other big life decision, whether that's going to college or switching jobs, you really want to weigh the pros and the cons in the context of someone who you trust and someone who can kind of unravel all those loose ends for you.
That gives me one more question. Sorry. Mm-hmm. So you have a situation. So you mentioned the mail and just having some knowledge in that growing up and knowing what I know. It can be difficult for the male too. Now it's not as bad. The woman definitely has the bigger challenge here. Who are we kidding? But if the male is in the person's life, it is a difficult decision for that person too. And my advice is to the male is always to lean in and be as supportive as you possibly can. Really be a part of it. Don't say whatever you want. Because that's just not.
It's your body, your choice. She doesn't want to hear that.
No,
she knows that.
That's right. That's exactly right. So my question to you is, have you come across a situation, and please no names, where two people walk in the door and the male is more proactive about the life of that child and the female is not?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've seen it a lot. I would say a lot recently too. And recently there's a research study that CareNet put out around the influence of fathers in decision making. And for over 50% of pregnancies, the only person who knows about that positive pregnancy test for the first 5 months is the boyfriend, is the male. He's the only person that she's told. And he has the greatest influence, more than a medical provider, more than her family, more than her mom. It's him. And it's because she wants to know, are you in or are you out? And so for those men that are in, they have an incredible influence on women who are scared, who think this is not what I wanted for my life. And even women who are like, this isn't even the guy I want to be with, but he's so for this that I think I can do this. I think we can make co-parenting work, or I think we can make a different situation work, even if they pursue an adoption plan. He has an incredible impact. And even though our name is Hope Clinic for Women, from the moment he walks in the door, even if he makes the phone call, we want him to know that he's welcome, his opinion matters, and that he needs to state that opinion to her.
Got it. Great advice. Okay. This has been terrific. I think we have definitely opened eyes of our listeners. I'm hoping that if there is somebody out there that has a need or wants to fill a need and are listening to the show, that you lean into Hope Clinic for Women. They are very easy and welcoming to just about everybody. Their message is very powerful. Find out more about them. So, Kailey, any closing thoughts that you'd like to share before we sign off today?
I just want to say thank you so much for having me. Thank you for all of your kind words. I'm very, very grateful.
They're extremely authentic, and I'm just so excited for what you're doing over there. So I'll close with, tell your listeners your contact information, how they can find you, website, phone number.
Absolutely. So our website is hopeclinicforwomen.org, all spelled out. And our direct number is 615-321-0005.
Great. And Kailey Cornett is the CEO of this organization, and she is very approachable. So if you happen to call and ask for her, I'm sure she'll be very receptive to it. Am I correct?
I would love to talk with you. It's my favorite thing.
Awesome. Is there any way that we can help you? Do you have anything coming up that we can brag about other than the gala? I know that's towards the end of the year. Is there anything before then?
We have a Christmas event called Cider Carols that is kind of a kickoff for our gala, and it is a silent auction. So if you want to get your Christmas shopping done from Black Friday until December 1st, you can get a Christmas item, you can shop, and you're supporting a nonprofit. So
where is that held? Is that on site?
The on-site event will be in Franklin, and then the auction is all virtual. So you don't even have to come. You could do it in your PJs.
Gotcha. Will you be posting that link?
Yes, it will be on our website under our Get Involved tab.
Great. Okay, so I think that's it for today on The Marketing Perspective. Kailey, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm really glad you were able to do it.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening, and we'll tune in next time and see you on The Marketing Perspective. Don't forget to download, don't forget to like and share. Let more people know about this. We're trying to spread the word, so help us along if you're listening. Thank you all. See you soon.